Welcome back here to a new edition of AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta of LeMoyne College and myself, Dan Tortora, aka DT, here with you every first and third Wednesday of each month in our exclusive multimedia marketing partnership with LeMoyne College and these Dolphins. AD and DT coming to you in Dolphin Time every first and third Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, and every second and fourth Wednesday, the Dolphin Dive, where we dive into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, as well as future Dolphins and alumni. With that being said, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Dan.
Absolutely. Happy to be here with you. And we have a lot to be proud of, a lot to discuss as the year wraps up and students and student athletes head home and get some time with their family and their friends. We can reflect on the fact that this past spring season has been very, very successful, and there's a lot to build upon.
Yeah, it was a very successful season for us, Dan, both in the classroom and on our playing fields. As you know, we had 6 athletic teams qualify for the NCAAs this spring. Exceedingly proud of our student athletes. It's the second highest total that we've ever achieved here at LeMoyne in one season, so really proud of that group, and our lacrosse teams achieved at eye level. Our men fell just shy of qualifying for the national final game, the championship game once again, to defend their national championship, but they really performed well in the semifinal game down against Mercy 10 days ago. Great matchup. Our women's lacrosse team fought through tremendous adversity, injuries, and made it into the NCAAs and really fell a goal shy of winning the conference championship. And you might be able to dispute that because there was a disputed game-winning goal with 10 seconds left. We have forgotten about that and moved on from it, but really proud of that team. Our baseball team earned a berth into the NCAAs for the first time since 2018, reached the regional semifinal. Tremendous job by Scott Cassidy and his group.
Yeah.
Our men's golf team was the number 2 seed. We hosted the East Regional up in Rochester, and of course our women's and men's tennis teams. So proud of what Jeff Lonzak and that group accomplished this spring. Our women made their first ever trip to the NCAAs, got a win in their first ever match in the NCAAs, and then our men won that East Regional pod here that we hosted at Syracuse, and then we went down to the Nationals for the first time ever, and just an extremely exciting opportunity for our men to go compete against the best. They fell short in that matchup, much more competitive than the final score, and finished the season ranked 25th nationally, the highest ever by a tennis team here at LeMoyne. So it was a very accomplished spring, and I'm so proud of our student athletes.
Yeah, great to see all of these amazing moments in the spring season and really overall, and to see how incredibly well put together these teams have been, navigating through the pandemic, navigating through rules changing back and forth, and masks and no masks, and what can you do, and travel and whatnot. On top of all of that, being a student, being an athlete, and then dealing with adversity of injury and whatnot, and starts and stops because maybe a team that was supposed to come in, they come down with a pandemic, so then you have to change your schedule. There's a lot of things that these student athletes, coaches, and overall everyone connected to the teams have had to deal with. So to have successful seasons amidst the normal run of play and add into that everything else that we've been dealing with the last couple of years says a lot about LeMoyne. And as you always say, that's Dolphins never swim alone.
No, they don't swim alone. They swim well in the classroom as well. We didn't touch on that, Dan, but we honored 106 student athletes at our Scholar Athlete Breakfast. That's the highest number ever here at LeMoyne. And with the Scholar Athlete Breakfast, it recognizes student athletes that have at least 3 semesters under their belts and have a GPA of 3.5 or better. So 106 of our roughly 360 student athletes holding a CUM of 3.5 or better. That's impressive. And then you look at this semester alone, we achieved at a 3.3 plus rate, again, the 38th consecutive semester that the entire athletic department has accomplished a GPA over 3.0. 77% of our student athletes sported a GPA of at least 3.0, which is amazing. And then to make it even more extraordinary, 74% of our student athletes have CUMs of 3.5 or better. So I'm so proud. I'm fortunate to have an opportunity to help lead this organization with such phenomenal individuals that achieve at very high levels, both in the classroom and on the athletic fields.
Yeah, you bring that up, and it's very important to me. It's been a topic of discussion for 18 plus years as a broadcaster on my side, and a topic of discussion now with everything going on in today's world. The importance of remembering the student and student athlete and what that means, and how you can't be competing on the field in the court of life if you're not taking care of the classroom. So, as an athletic director, for you, how vital and how important is it to remember the student side? Because in today's America, I feel like all we talk about is NIL, transfer portal, money going here, money going there, who's moving, shifting, doing this. I almost never hear anybody say, hey, in the classroom, like you said, 3.5 or better, at least a 3.0, almost 80% of them, 106 scholar athletes, most ever. We don't hear that enough. And even when we do hear it, it's a quick email and it's gone.
Yeah.
So I would love to play more into the reality that being a student athlete and which one comes first in that hyphenation really should be a point of focus. It's been a point of focus on my show, and I would love someone who's been so many years into making sure that education is paramount for you to speak on it a little bit.
Well, I'm happy to, Dan, and thanks for asking that question. You know, we're educators first. Make no mistake about that. That's our mission here at LeMoyne College. We are completely aligned with the educational institutional mission of the college, and that is academics first. And that'll always be the highest priority. We will always be completely aligned with the leadership and the mission of the college, and that's always going to be education first. So we place a premium on performance in the classroom. And I'm so proud of our staff and what we've been able to accomplish this year in terms of trying to build even a stronger wall around our student athletes in terms of their academic support. As I mentioned earlier, LeMoyne is a long stretch, right, 18, 19 years now of student athletes where our cumulative GPA is 3.0 or better in a semester. That's unheard of. Yeah. So this is long before I arrived on campus. But I think we've done some things this past year to help try and reinforce that message and try and help reinforce the support that our student athletes receive. We shifted one of our assistant athletic directors to a student athlete success role, and Eliza Hilligus, and she also is a member of our EASE committee on campus, and that committee really helps identify students that might be struggling, not just academically, but in their personal lives. So really happy with that support place. I think Eliza probably worked with over 40 to 50 athletes this year that came to talk to her about some issues that they were having personally, at home, here at school, academically. And then we established our faculty athletic affiliates program, which I'm so proud of. We had great buy-in from our faculty, from Dr. Sean Ward, our faculty athletics rep, Travis Newton, who was the faculty senate chair. Of course, our provost, Jim Hannon, was very supportive of this initiative. And we placed a faculty member with each one of our athletic teams to help build that bridge and strengthen that bond. So that representative could go to practice, could go to games, they could sit on the benches. We really let them kind of mold that relationship as deeply as they want to, but they know that our student athletes have a member of the faculty they can go to directly, and if it's for maybe additional tutoring or it's some additional help, or at least to have a friendly voice on the faculty side that can help steer them in the right direction if they have a specific need from a class standpoint. So I'm thrilled with these initiatives. We'll look to continue to only strengthen our plans and processes and how we can take care of our student athletes, but it's always going to be academics first.
Yeah, and I think that is, because it is first, we see what's been asked of the student athletes and they've responded in a tremendous way, and you have to make that a paramount piece. To me, it's a no-brainer to do something like that. To touch on it a little bit, since it's been such a topic of discussion, and I have done a lot with the leadership around the country to get everyone's thoughts from all over when it comes to NIL and the transfer portal. NIL is a question that comes up when your coaches are out recruiting. People may ask, hey, what's the NIL look like in Central New York? And at the same time, I've talked to your coaches and they deal with the transfer portal either by bringing players in student athletes in or having them leave. So we know that LeMoyne, as well as many institutions all over the country, have been touched by NIL and the transfer portal. How do you view it as we are now, a calendar year into what I will respectfully call a massive tornado that was treated like it was a small rainstorm?
I agree with both, actually, and I do believe that any measure to enhance the student athlete experience is positive, but I feel like there need to be some guardrails in place, and right now there really isn't. There really isn't in the NIL world.
Yeah.
And the transfer portal. It's too open right now. Everything is just kind of like an open range. So I am always an advocate for our student athletes and their experience and their freedoms and their opportunities. If it means that they can maybe make some money, that they can help them get through their college experience, maybe help their families, utilize their own personal brand through NIL, name, image, and likeness. Very supportive of that. I just don't feel like there are enough guardrails and checks and balances in place right now. And I think right now we're in a place where it's truly pay for play. I'm happy to say we're not dealing with a lot of that here at LeMoyne. There are opportunities. We work on those on a case by case. I think we're doing it the right way. Athletic departments are not supposed to be advisors, or at least not in a way to arrange these deals, but at least we are able to advise our student athletes from a compliance standpoint, what they can and can't do. And I think we're doing it the right way here at LeMoyne. There are opportunities, but make no mistake about it, the opportunities at LeMoyne don't equal the opportunities that are out there for student athletes at the Autonomy 5 conferences. In terms of the transfer portal, again, I'm wholly supportive of that. I think it's a huge benefit for a student athlete to be able to transfer one time during their career, not sit out a year if it's a 4-year institution to another 4-year institution. But what we're seeing is there's absolutely no boundaries to that either. Mm-hmm. And we're starting to hear discussion of maybe there'll be windows where the transfer, based on your season, when athletes can transfer within those windows. And I think that'll help roster construction, because right now it's very difficult. A coach shows up any day, his roster could look different if he or she comes to practice one day and finds out 3 student athletes entered the transfer portal. There should be some time, you would think, that's going to be blocked off where it's sacred and you have your team, and your team, at least at that moment in time, is your team. So I'm a huge advocate of student athlete rights. I just feel like right now there needs to be a bit more structure in both of those areas.
And when I say tornado that was treated like a small rainstorm, I also am a proponent of getting something to the student athletes as far as their opportunity for name, image, and likeness, because the majority of student athletes will not play professionally, so the only time for them to make money on their name, image, and likeness in connection to their sport is within their time in college. And I know that the NCAA is going to capitalize off of that student athlete, so I think the student athlete should be able to capitalize off themselves. I never force somebody making money off of your name that you can't make yourself. So that's my feeling on it, but there needs to be parameters, and you shouldn't be able to call a school and the school say, hey, if you come here, we'll get you X amount of dollars. That's an issue. The part of the transfer portal, coaches used to be able to, if a player said, I want it, because you used to have to tell your coach, now you don't have to. Now you can just tell your compliance person, and the coach doesn't know. And the coach can't see their own team in the transfer portal. So the coach could have 6 players in the transfer portal, not even know, if there's no personal responsibility from that student athlete to go to the coach and say, hey, just so you know, I may leave, I may not, but I'm in the transfer portal.
Right.
That secrecy is something I struggle with if I was a coach. And at the same time, I think the other part of it too is the fact that, like you said, with the windows and whatnot, coaches could do whatever they wanted. Coaches used to be able to come to you and say, hey, Bob, if you told me you wanted to transfer, I could say, okay, you can't go to anybody in our conference and you can't go to anybody on our schedule.
Right.
Well, what if of those 30 some odd teams I give you, 5 of them are the only schools recruiting you?
Right.
And I've talked to student athletes that I've gotten to know and become friends with. I've spoken with them who told me flat out, Dan, I tried to transfer from the school I was at, and the head coach gave me a list of teams, and whether or not it makes sense to me, of all those teams, 2 or 3 of them that he had on that list were the only schools recruiting me. So I either had to stay in a situation I didn't want to be in, or I had to find another school, but where I actually wanted to go, I couldn't play. And that to me was hard for me to take. So I do like that those parameters are gone. What I don't like about the transfer portal is the fact that because there are not the windows, and I brought that up on my show too, it's not, I can't take credit that it was my idea because it wasn't, but the window rule of you know what you're going to have. Because if you're a college football coach, you, on average, are going out in a recruiting class in 20 to 25 players, right? 22 maybe you're bringing in. So let's say I'm bringing in 19 guys, 22 guys, whatever that may be. Well, if I have 20 in the transfer portal, now I have 42 scholarships I have to fill. If I have 42 scholarships to fill, think about that. That's 11 away for being an entire NFL roster. So to me, I know schools that have gone through the 30 to 40 scholarships this year that they had to fill, when in actuality it should have been 19 or 20, maybe 22. So, you know, I think that it's good that the student athletes have more say in their future, but there has to be a check, a balance, a guardrail, because as someone so well put it, and something that we've talked about a lot, and he just said it on the show recently, Mike Oresco, the commissioner in the American Athletic Conference, he said you could call it the Wild Wild West, but the Wild Wild West had more rules.
That's true.
So it's a great thing for student athletes to have both of these things, but I think as a business owner, I know that name, image, and likeness with no guardrails is going to, even though it's for the student athletes are going to get used and abused by it. And as a business owner, if this is how it's going to be, I would love the opportunity to actually sit down and I would give that to LeMoyne. I would give that to anybody, colleges and universities. I'd be more than happy to say, hey, you know what? Let me come in and let's do a seminar once a semester where I could talk to them about what they should know. Yeah. Because in 10 years of owning my own company, there's things I know today that I had no idea of 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So I think there's a lot of good if it's done right. And unfortunately, in the world of the transfer portal and NIL, it's being used as a recruiting tool, and it's being used in an adverse way to education, and that's where I don't want it to go any farther down that road.
Yeah, and what we do, Dan, our process here at LeMoyne is once a student athlete decides that they want to enter the transfer portal, they have to meet with our compliance director. That's part of the process. And then the compliance director will notify me. And I try and meet with every student athlete that enters the transfer portal. Not so much the graduate transfers, because you can understand they might want to have an additional experience after they've graduated. But retention is so important to the mission of our institution. It's so important to us. We want to maintain those relationships with the students that we bring in here for 4 or 5 years. So I'll meet with each student athlete and talk to them and find out the reason why they want to transfer. And if there's something that we as an administration can do better to help the experience for the next person. Or I don't try to change their mind. I try and talk to them. I try and tell them, share some life experiences with them, tell them the grass doesn't always look greener sometimes, find out if they're happy here, and if the only reason they want to leave is based on playing time, that might not be the best reason to leave. So it's about institutional fit for student athletes, and I try and talk to them about that, and see if it's an area that we came up short as an administration, what can we do better for the people behind them. And in many cases, the student athletes will come back and they'll pull their names out of the transfer portal and they'll stay on the team. We've had several that have expressed a desire to transfer after this academic year, and some that already have. But fortunately, that number is reduced, and I feel like the more touch points we can have in discussions and conversations with our student athletes, that maybe we have an opportunity to tell them that and change their mind a little bit and tell them our story and know that we're here for them and we care for them, and that maybe that gives them pause to think about what their next step might be. Yeah,
and the opportunity to, well, you have to care enough. You have to care enough on your side of it, because an AD could say, okay, well, you're leaving, good riddance. But for you to actually sit down and say, okay, you know what? Is this an exit interview, or is this a conversation where there's, the opportunity for you to stay? And if it is an exit interview, then I want to know how we could be better. I want you to know, on your side, what we've seen from you, and I want to be amicable. And, I've seen that when I know that something is on it, so I say, what would Jesus do? And I mean, and I'm candid, I always talk on my show about exactly who I am. When I went through my divorce, my last moment with her, I helped her move into her apartment. I had dinner with her, and I sat across from her, and all I could say to myself was, my last moment with her has to be with humanity, it has to be with grace, it has to be with kindness, and no matter what I'm upset about, and no matter what I think I have a right to stake a claim to or be mad about, I needed to say, for me, no matter what this person has done to me, what is my final act going to be with them? And it was to be kind, compassionate, caring, to bite my tongue, and to understand that I'm trying to get somewhere else at the end of my life, and so getting revenge is to me not as important. And I feel that when we go through these exit interviews in life, professionally and personally, it's important to learn something about ourselves on how we can be better, which I did, and at the same time to find grace, because it's not always easy to have the conversation where you know that a student athlete may be leaving or a coach may be leaving, whatever it may be, and you have to have those conversations. And you as an athletic director, you have to have the conversations of hirings and firings, of leaving and staying, and they're not easy conversations to have, and you have to have a great amount of patience, grace, faith, belief, confidence, and compassion, because you may have a hard conversation, but you still want to leave it amicably, and I think that that's an art.
Yeah, it is, and it's not always the best part of the job, having difficult conversations, and we had several this year. You look back to all the way from last May when I arrived on campus to now in June, a year later, we had a lot of difficult conversations, and we had a lot of celebrations and good times. But it's part of the job, and again, if it means that we can really help our student athletes along their journey, whether that's here at LeMoyne, which we hope it will be, and we hope they reconsider and stay. But again, if it's something that we can kind of help provide a little bit of guidance, we're happy to do that as well.
And as a final note, as we step into June here on June 1st, officially in AD and DT on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, exclusively with LeMoyne College, the reclassification and realignment, we got to break the news here on the show. We got to give an update, and now I am told we have another update to give.
And we do. More breaking news, right? So it's not big news to break yet, but we did receive our report from our consultant, from Collegiate Consulting, and started to take a look at that over Memorial Day weekend. Been through that report a couple times already. So we'll have started to socialize it now with our leadership. We have a board of trustees meeting here on campus this week. We'll get through that. We'll be able to distribute the report, and we'll begin to have those internal discussions once everyone feels like they have had a good opportunity to read the report page front to back. It's 173 pages, so it'll take a little bit of time to get through front and back, but no surprises really. I can tell you that what we had estimated is pretty accurate to what we're seeing from Collegiate Consulting, and it's going to be a discernment period now for our leadership to see if it's something that we can do financially. We know there's an increased financial investment that will be required on an annual basis and an upfront cost. And now we have a really good idea, a good picture of what it will take to be competitive in terms of budget spend with our peers in 3 of the regional conferences that we've talked about, America East, the MAAC, and the Northeast Conference. We'll be able to really absorb all that information, socialize it, discuss it, have some really good discussion, and then we'll make a data-driven decision that's in the best interest of this institution moving forward about which direction we go athletically. And hopefully, if we decide that reclassification is in the best interest of the institution, hopefully there's a conference out there that views LeMoyne as a great candidate, and we feel like we're on a parallel path to when we come to our decision, that there may be, if there's going to be an opportunity, there may be one at that same point in time, and we'll have the Regency to make that decision.
And I mean, you mentioned the MAAC, the MAAC, and you mentioned the America East and the Northeast Conference, the NEC. Why those 3?
I think if you look at geography more than anything else, Dan, they make the most sense. institutional fit for us, the MAAC would be a tremendous institutional fit. The Northeast Conference, an excellent institutional fit, like institutions, similar missions, private Catholic schools in the MAAC, several here in central western New York, Siena and Albany, Marist in the Hudson Valley, and of course we have Niagara and Canisius in the western corridor of the state. There's also a possibility, you know, with the MAAC, if LeMoyne were to make this move, my stance, and I know President Lemura's stance is we share the same thought. This really isn't an athletics move. If we make it, it would be a move for the institution, right? A strategic move for the institution. And we want to focus our engagement levels, our marketing efforts, our enrollment strategy. We wouldn't shift it from our backyard in central and upstate New York, but we would just expand that footprint.
Yeah.
And I think that's very appealing for us. You know, that footprint of the tri-state area where there's tremendous amounts of population, and we know there's an enrollment cliff coming in 2025 in the Northeast. Well, how do we expand that footprint? Potentially you expose your college through athletics now in a different market, in that tri-state area where you have schools in Orange County and Rockland County and Dutchess County and northern New Jersey and of course New York City, and all the engagement opportunities with our wonderful alumni that are now inhabiting those areas of the region. So exciting times for us. I'd say if you ask why, that's why. The geography piece, the institutional fit, the similarities in academic mission, size, budget, those were the three. Those were the reasons why we selected those three to benchmark against anyway.
Can a conference reach out to you during this process, or do they have to wait?
No, a conference can reach out to us at any point in time. We just wanted to be in position that if a conference was interested, that we had a decision in place. That was my goal as the athletic director all the way back from last summer was, hey, let's position LeMoyne in such a way that we would have that regency, we would have that decision. So first, it was trying to make us the best we could be internally as an athletic department, trying to position ourselves so we would be an attractive candidate.
Yeah.
And then it was, okay, let's make sure that we socialize this information amongst our leadership. And it's a conversation with all of our stakeholders and all of our constituents. And so this isn't a decision that's going to be made in the event center down here in the athletic department by the athletic director or by the president in the back room. This is going to be a decision that's socialized amongst all of our community. And that's a tribute to Linda Lemura, Dr. Lemura, our president, and making sure that everyone's going to have a voice in this decision. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully we come to a decision, we know what direction we'd like to head, and then if an opportunity comes, we don't have to say, well, hold off, we need to start the process and internalize this and socialize this. Yeah. We're gonna have this inflection point where the two products would intersect, and hopefully there's an invitation, and at the time we have a decision whether we decide to reclassify or we don't, but those two things intersect, I should say, and opportunity might only come around once, and we want to make sure we're prepared. I always say, if it's wonderful if you're successful, but you always have to prepare for success, so that when that opportunity comes, you're able to capitalize on it. And I think that we've taken great measures to prepare for this success.
Yeah, you are ready if and when it, and what do they say? If you're always ready, you don't have to get ready. So there's a lot to be said about the potential future and what's coming up here, and you can be sure that whatever happens with LeMoyne College, it'll be right here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of this fantastic AD and DT, the Dolphin Dive, and all of the specials that we get to do throughout the year. We are so proud and so thankful that LeMoyne has trusted us to tell their story. Thank you to Dr. Linda Lemura, to Bob Beretta, to all of the coaches, all the student athletes, and to everybody around campus, to our future Dolphins and our alumni. We appreciate the fact that you've allowed me the opportunity to tell the stories and allowed us to put a spotlight on LeMoyne that has been unique, different, and worldwide, as we've been able to spread the message about how fast, how strong, and how well Dolphins can swim. And remember, folks, the Dolphins are closest to the human beings as well. There's a reason why, if we're ever trapped in an ocean, you want to find a dolphin. So we thank you for listening. We thank you for being here. And, of course, we appreciate you as always. Thank you, Bob, and fins up.
Fins up, Dan. Thank you.